How to speak to your spirit guides. This meditation is pretty cool. Because I initially started doing this meditation whilst being under the impression that I would be connecting to my subconscious mind. But then I fell asleep doing it. I ended up finding myself in a dark space, one similar to the space that I'm going to get you guys to somewhat experience later on as I teach you how to do this meditation. It's practice, one that I would recommend you do at night, because this is what happened to me. I was doing this meditation, I call it fishing for answers, it'll make sense in a second, but I was doing it at night and I found myself in this black space. And these starfish beings are coming out, right? They're just emerging out of the darkness. And they look like starfish. Like literally, they're formed like stars. Only they're puffed out a little bit and they're see-through. You see straight through them. And as I'm looking down, what I'd assume was its head, you know, that upper triangle piece, I look down and I see a little TV inside of his belly. And I noticed that whenever he was thinking, the TV inside of his belly would start moving. That was actually quite a surprise at the time, because this was some years ago. I think I was like 20. And I could always feel emotions from a distance, but this was a little stronger than usual. Not only that, but it seemed that every image inside of his belly would emit a specific frequency that I would feel. I was literally seeing and feeling its thoughts. And so it came up to me, and there were another 4 beings like that, and it felt like it was saying to me, hey Ryan, feel into my being, feel this consciousness, and watch what I do with it. And then it managed to take what it was feeling, the thoughts inside of its body. That little TV came out of its little star arm, and then out forming bubbles of thoughts. And they would go off into the distance, which was a big piece of what they were trying to teach me, which was that thoughts can go and then shoot off into other dimensions. And at that point in time, I was like, oh, the ethers? But it didn't feel like the ethers. It felt like within that place of existence, thoughts could go anywhere. And so he got me to do the same thing. I look down and all of a sudden I've got a telly inside of my belly. And I decide to feel those thoughts, and I'm looking at them changing in relation to what I'm thinking. Then they come up my arm, and as they're coming up my arm, my body is going see-through. Down my forearm and out of my hand. And off into wherever they go. Etheric realm, the astral realm, 3D. They were also telling me how to take thoughts out of my body and send them outward, so that they could then land inside of other people's bodies. Telepathy, in other words. Multidimensional telepathy, if anything. I didn't really know how to do it until they showed me. And because they showed me, I decided to practice it here, just to develop my empath abilities even further this time around. I know for a fact that I picked it up properly because Vice contacted me and they asked me to demonstrate this ability, this empathic ability. They were doing a documentary on empaths, and I said, there's actually much more to it than just feeling emotions. You're exchanging consciousness. And so they sent a team up to my house, and the young lady, her name was Hannah, sat on my couch, and I did what the starfish beings told me.
That's so weird. No, seriously, that's so horrible.
And I was able to pull out a memory out of her head into my body, and I was able to see literally what she was doing inside of the memory. And I told her it. They put this on film, and I ended up becoming one of the top 5 most popular people on Vice within the year of 2018. So this is what I'm going to do for you guys today. I'm going to teach you how to reach this space so that you can contact beings like this. These beings could be your spirit guides. They could be just random spirits that are there to help. A lot of them want to help. If they're getting in contact with you throughout this meditation, it's because they want to help. That being said, you could also end up communicating to your regular spirit guide. Now, I say regular because the only way that you're going to really find out whether or not these spirit guides are actually your spirit guides would be to have more experiences where you're experiencing a whole host of interactions with different spirits. That way, as the days, weeks, and months go on, you would realize that, wait a second, these other spirit guides aren't here anymore. But those specific spirit guides that keep looking at me through the ceiling, checking on me, are constantly around, you know? Or maybe that spirit animal keeps coming into me, looking around to see if I'm okay, you know? So these are little telltale signs that they're your spirit animals, or that these are your spirit guides. And sometimes they can take breaks. I used to have a spirit guide that took the form of a Smurf, who was somewhat of a hybrid between Casper, the friendly ghost, and he disappeared for like a couple of decades, you know, over 20 years. And then I saw him again in the astral plane. I made a video on that. And so sometimes your spirit guides can take breaks. But what I'm trying to say here is that pretty much every being out there that's listening to you, that wants to give you help throughout this meditation, is a spirit guide, because they're guiding you through something that you're going through. The meditation is as follows. You lay down in your bed, okay? This is if you want to connect to your spirit guides. You lay down in your bed, like actually interact with them. Otherwise, you can do this whilst you're sitting up at work or in your living room, anywhere, in a couch. And you'll find that you'll always get answers from them. But if you want to start seeing them and interacting with them, you do this laying down. You close your eyes, and you'll notice that you will have a sense of self, right? And right now the curtains are open, so it's distracting me. They need to be closed, because when there's darkness involved and you have that sense of inward self, it feels like you're in a dark space, right? That space is quite huge. Void even. You have no idea how far away it would go out, because you can't see a wall or a ceiling. You're not imagining anything. You're just dealing with what's already here, which is perfect. And then what you do is you basically have that sense of self. Get familiar with the fact that you're doing it right. That, yeah, it feels like you're in a very large space, you know? And then you just take a deep breath in, breathe out, and as you breathe out, you just sink into yourself. You sink into that space. As you're sinking into that space, it helps to constantly be aware of the fact that you're getting it right, that you're where you're supposed to be, inward. You're the only one there. Breathe out, you sink into it even more, okay? Now, what you want to do at this point onwards is you want to throw out a question as far as you can by simply speaking it inwardly. And when I say inwardly, I mean in to out. So you're speaking it out to that distance. You're not speaking it towards yourself. This isn't self-inquiry, okay? Otherwise, you only ever get answers from yourself. You want to get it far out. And so what you do is you throw out a question to that void, and it can be any question you want. I actually made this video before, and I posted a scenario which was very good at explaining how this whole process works. So imagine if you had your eyes closed, you're internal, you have that sense of where you are internally, you're the only one inside your body, and you're seeing that darkness, right? You're not imagining it's just there. You throw out a question. The question, for example, could be, why do I have public anxiety? And then an answer comes back. And it says, because when you were in school, you were anxious before going out on stage, because you were worried about your mum not showing up. Because if she didn't show up, then that would mean that she didn't care about you. She didn't love you. Her work was more important than your play. And that made you anxious. You then took a step out on stage, right? You saw that she wasn't sitting down. That made you even more anxious because it confirmed your beliefs. Notice I said that it had nothing to do with other people. But instead it had everything to do with your parents not being there. You might get that response from a voice. It might show you memories. You know, it might flood you with emotions. The way that you get contact from your spirit guides are varied. And with that, they might pose to you a question. They might say to you, what's your relationship like with your mum? And you might sit there inside your space and think, I don't really know, The reason why they're doing this is because they want to work with you. Don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions. My relationship with my mum was okay whenever I saw her, but whenever I didn't see her, my mind would wander into these other extremes. You throw out a question as far as you can within the same direction. Can you help me deal with this aspect of my mind? And then it might say yes, it might say no. If it says no, why? You know, so ask follow-up questions. It might say because you're not ready, or because I don't believe that you'll actually do what's necessary. And so you have this back and forth with this being. And if you ever get tired of speaking to a being, just move your awareness to a different part of that void and throw out another question. Do not compare it to the void, because when people hear the word the void, they close their eyes and they try to make a black space. They try to create their own interpretation of what they think a void is. You don't have to do that with this meditation. Everything you need is literally there as soon as you just realize that you're the only one in your body, and that it does feel like there is a sense of space around you. That's all you need, really. So this is it. This has been the video on how to connect to your spirit guides. I'm Ryan James Cropper. Subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll speak to you all pretty soon. Peace.